The Berenstain Bears and the Female Fullback by Stan and Jan Berenstain. Chapter 5. The argument reached right down into families. Family members began warring with one another, usually male against female. It seemed to reach every family in Bear Country. Even the Bear family, who got along so well with each other most of the time, began the fight. A few days after the tryouts, Papa Bear sat in the living room reading from the Bear Country Intelligencer. Already, the newspaper was full of articles and letters about Bertha and the tryouts. "Hey," Papa called to Mama. She was in the kitchen fixing the cubs an after-school snack. "Here's a letter from Farmer Ben. Listen to this. And as for Miss Bertha Broom, anyone who did what she did must be a troublemaker. Why else would a girl butt in where she doesn't belong?" "And do you agree with that?" Mama called from the kitchen. Papa laid the newspaper down across his lap and thought. He fondly said. "No, I don't." "Oh?" Mama said hopefully. "I'm a bit surprised to hear that. Why not?" "Well, Bertha might not mean any harm at all," said Papa. "She might just be confused about how girls should act." Mama groaned and stalked into the living room. "Oh, you're so understanding, Papa Bear," she said. "Have you thought of a third possibility?" Papa frowned and scratched his head. "Third possibility? What could that be?" "That Bertha Broom just likes to play football," said Mama. "Ha!" said Papa. "There's no reason for her to try out for the boys' football team." "Oh, no?" said Mama. "What do you think she should do? Try out for the girls' football team?" "Of course not. There isn't any girls." Papa broke off. He suddenly saw the point Mama was trying to make. Now wait a minute," he said. "You're twisting my thoughts around." The front door opened and brother and sister came in for their snack, but Mama and Papa were so busy arguing that they didn't even notice the cubs. Brother and sister stood quietly, watching and listening. "You don't need me to twist your thoughts around," Mama teased. "You do a fine job of it yourself." "Very funny," said Papa. "I'll bet these other letters agree with me." He picked up the newspaper again. "Here's the next one. Anyone who calls Bertha Broom a troublemaker should think again. Maybe she just likes to play football." Papa's voice trailed off. "Exactly," cried Mama. "Who wrote that fine, intelligent letter?" Said Papa. "This letter is signed Mrs. Ben. Well, what would you expect from a female?" Mama was about to answer when Brother cleared his throat loudly. "Oh, hi, cubs," said Mama. Your snacks are already in the kitchen." But the cubs didn't move. "What were you two arguing about?" asked Sister. "Bertha Broom?" "We weren't arguing," said Mama. "We were just discussing." "It sounded like arguing to me," said Brother. "Me too," said Sister. Mama sighed. "The cubs are right, dear," she said. "Your papa and I were discussing Bertha Broom, and perhaps we were arguing just a bit." Papa smiled and put his arms around Mama's shoulders. "But remember, cubs, your mama and I never argue about anything important," he said. "Do you mean to say," said Mama, "that women's rights are not important?" "Sure, they're important," said Papa. "But what do women's rights have to do with some silly girl going out for the boys' football team?" "They have everything to do with it," shouted Mama. "And furthermore," the Bear family wasn't the only family discussing the football fate of Bertha Broom. Farmer and Mrs. Ben were discussing it so loudly they frightened their cows. Squire and Mrs. Grizzly got so angry they began throwing things. All was quiet at the Bruins, but that was because Mr. and Mrs. Bruin had gotten so angry they had stopped speaking to each other. There was no question about it. The Bertha Broom story was spreading through Bear Country like wildfire.